What if the hardest season of your life is not a punishment but a map? A map that leads you through a lonely stretch of inner desert and brings you home to yourself. That is the question that hit me as I sat with The Ferryman by Claire McFall, a story about a girl, a guide, and a brutal landscape that mirrors the weather inside us. I did not read it as a ghost tale. I read it as a manual for anyone who has ever felt numb on the commute, hollow at a party, or lost at 3 in the morning with the lights off and the mind racing. This novel gave me language for something I think most of us in the United States quietly carry. There is a wide, unmarked wilderness inside, and we either wander it on autopilot or learn to cross it on purpose. The book begins with shock. A teenager dies in a train accident and wakes up in a barren in-between place. A ferryman appears. His job is to escort her across a wasteland full of cliffs, storms, and night creatures that feed on fear. At first she refuses what is true. Then she sees it. The landscape changes with her mood. When she rages, the sky breaks. When she steadies her breath, the wind settles. When she trusts, the path appears. The longer I sat with that, the more it felt less like fantasy and more like Tuesday in America. You and I wake up, check our phones, and step into a day shaped less by events and more by the state of our nervous system. It is not mystical, it is human. The world is not always kind, but our inner weather either clears the view or turns a small hill into a mountain we cannot climb. Here is the idea that moved me most. The wasteland is real, but it is not there to swallow us. It is there to reveal us. The monsters are not punishments. They are teachers with bad breath. The goal is not to crush them. The goal is to carry a light so steady that even when you walk through their shadows, you do not forget who you are. The novel delivers that through story. I want to translate it into daily life with simple words and grounded practices. I also want to add what I have learned the unglamorous way after breakups, layoffs, late fees, panic spirals, and the long rebuilding that followed each one. Let us start with the first lesson, the mirror. In the book, the land reflects the state of the traveler. That picture is not about blame, it is about leverage. When I make my inner world more stable, the outer world becomes more navigable. That is not magic, it is mechanics. If I walk into a stand-up meeting already simmering, I will hear the harmless question as a personal attack. If I take 3 slow breaths and name the emotion before I speak, I will notice the same question is neutral and answerable. The event did not change. The story I told myself did. Try this the next time you feel the wind rise. Pause long enough to feel your feet. Name the emotion quietly. Sad, angry, scared. Now ask a single focusing question. What is the smallest kind action I can take in the next 5 minutes? Then do only that. Send the honest text. Fill the glass of water. Step outside and let the sun hit your face. You are not solving life. You are changing your state. In the novel, when the heroine calms her center, the horizon clears. In my real life, when I calm my center, the email thread derails less often, the drive home feels shorter, and the voice in my head stops narrating disaster. This mirror lesson becomes dangerous when we twist it into self-attack. If my day goes badly, it is not because I failed to breathe correctly. Systems matter. Rent is real, grief is heavy. What the mirror offers is not control over fate, it offers influence over my readiness. In plain words, I cannot stop the storm, but I can wear a jacket. I can turn on my headlamp. I can invite a friend to walk with me. That shifts outcomes. The second lesson is the guide in the story. The ferryman appears as a companion who knows the terrain. He has led many souls and carries a quiet weariness. People rage at him because he tells the truth. The heroine is the first to look at him with tenderness. When she does, something in both of them changes. That is a picture of what compassion actually does. When you truly see another person, you steady both their nervous system and your own. You both become more resourceful. If you have ever worked a double shift and had a stranger say your name with kindness, you know the medicine I am talking about. There is a line I keep replaying in my mind as I think about this book. Kindness is never a one-way street. You helped me cross the river today, and somehow that same bridge is there when you need it. I have watched this play out in small American moments. The neighbor who shoveled my sidewalk without asking was the neighbor I later checked in on during a heat wave. The friend who sat in the ER with me during a long night is the friend who later let me sit with him in the silence after his loss. Guidance is not about rescuing. It is about standing long enough with someone that they remember what is already inside them. So how do we turn the guide lesson into practice? Adopt the simplest 3-step rhythm I know. See-soothe-support. See means you reflect back reality with care. You look your friend in the eye and say, I can tell this is rough. Soothe means you lower the temperature a bit. You make tea. You sit in a park. You step outside the swirl for a moment. Support means you ask a grounded question. What would help in the next hour? Then you let them choose because agency is oxygen in the wasteland. Use the same rhythm on yourself. See your emotion without shame. Soothe your body. Support your next small move. Nobody gets out of the wilderness by brute force. We walk each other. The third lesson is the one that takes the longest to live. Love is not only romance, it is integration. Late in the novel, there is a twist. The Ferryman seems to shape-shift for each soul, taking a form they can accept. With the heroine, there is no disguise. She sees him as he is. I take that as a symbol. The person you think is saving you might actually be the missing piece of yourself arriving in a shape you can finally hold. In simple terms, self-love is not a bath with a candle. It is an act of devotion that calls home every part of you left behind, the scared child who learned to disappear, the bold teenager who spoke too loud and got laughed at, the tired adult who forgot what rest felt like. Bring them in, feed them, let them sit at your table. When you do, the appetite that once turned you to every cheap comfort loses its pull. You are no longer starving. How do we practice that kind of love without drifting into vague talk? Use a practical ritual. Write a letter from your future self to your current self. Keep it one page. Use simple words, tell the truth, then put it in a drawer and read it aloud once a week. It sounds small, it is not. You are building a trustworthy voice inside your head. Add one more practice. When you feel unworthy, place one hand on your belly and one on your heart. Breath slow. Ask, what do I need right now that is within my power to give? Then give it. A glass of water, a walk around the block, 10 minutes with a book instead of the endless scroll. Each time you do, you teach your nervous system a new rule. I do not abandon myself. One of the most powerful sequences in the book arrives after the heroine reaches a bright place that looks like heaven. Everything is easy there, everything is beautiful. Then she realizes something is missing. The person who walked through the dark with her is not allowed in. Paradise without purpose turns to an empty museum. She makes a decision that most of us would call foolish. She walks back into the wilderness alone to find him. That moment changed how I define courage. Courage is not loud. Courage is a quiet commitment to live your values even when the lighting is bad. I think about that when the alarm rings on a Monday in February and the sky is gray. The easy thing would be to drift. The deeper thing is to remember who walked with me through my last season of hard. A parent who held the line, a teacher who saw me, a friend who told me the truth. I can honor them by acting like the person they helped me become. That might mean speaking up in a meeting to protect a teammate. It might mean turning down the extra gig because rest is the braver choice. It might mean calling my therapist back and saying, I am ready to work again. The point is not to chase drama. The point is to love in a way that unifies you. When your inner pieces are gathered, you bring your own Ferryman with you wherever you go. Let us name what some of you are thinking. Is this too mystical for real life? I hear you. Here is the simplest way I can ground it. The brain is a pattern machine. What you practice becomes easier. If you practice panic, the path to panic becomes a highway. If you practice pause and kind action, that path widens. The monsters do not vanish. They lose their power to drag you. The wasteland does not turn into a spa. It becomes a trail you know how to hike. You do not need to believe anything supernatural to use this. You only need to be willing to experiment. If I could compress the book's wisdom and my years of stumbles into a single week of training, here is what I would hand you. I call it the Wasteland Walk. 7 days, gentle structure, no perfection. Everything is written in words so your mind reads it softly and your voice AI can narrate it easily. Day 1, the mirror. From 6:30 to 6:45 in the morning, sit with your feet on the floor. Breathe. Name 3 feelings without trying to fix them. In the afternoon, when stress rises, ask the one focusing question. What is the smallest kind action I can take in the next 5 minutes? Do it. At night, write 3 lines about how your inner weather shaped your day. Day 2, the guide. Text one person who has been steady for you. Thank them with a specific sentence. Offer one small favor with no strings. After dinner, ask yourself what kind of guide you needed at age 15. Write down 3 qualities. Circle 1, tomorrow, be that for someone. Day 3, the body. In the book, storms calm when the traveler steadies herself. Your body is your weather station. From 7 to 7:15 in the morning, move your body. Walk a loop outside. Do a few slow squats while the coffee brews. At lunch, eat something colorful. In the evening, put your phone in another room for the last hour before bed. Your nervous system will thank you. Day 4, the vow. Self-love is a commitment, not a mood. Write a 1-sentence promise to yourself. Keep it plain. Something like, I will not abandon my body when work gets loud, or I will speak to myself with respect even when I miss the mark. Put it on a sticky note where you see it when you wake. Day 5, the map. Identify one hard thing you have been avoiding, a medical appointment, a budget conversation. The first 10 pages of a resume, break it into 3 tiny moves. Do the first one before noon. Text a friend a selfie of your thumbs up when you finish. Let them cheer you on. Momentum is medicine. Day 6, the circle. Invite 2 people to a simple gathering, a walk at the park, a coffee on a porch. No agenda, real conversation. Ask, what is one thing that felt heavy this week and one thing that gave you light? Listen without fixing. Leave your phone in your bag. Day 7, the homecoming. Do something that makes your inner 10-year-old grin. Ride a bike, draw badly, bake cookies from a box. Watch a movie you loved in middle school. The monsters hate joy. It makes their teeth fall out. End the night with the hand on belly, hand on heart practice. Ask what you need. Give it. Will a week transform your life? No, but it will tilt the ground. The wasteland will still be there. It just will not own you. and you will be building a quiet set of reflexes that pay out when life throws a curveball. The point is not to become invincible. The point is to become deeply available to yourself and others, even when the wind rises. I want to revisit one more thread from the book because it demands our attention in a culture that rewards image over integrity. The heroine does not defeat the wasteland with tricks. She transforms it through character. She practices steadiness. She chooses compassion. She tells the truth even when it costs her comfort. In the end, she and the Ferryman find a way to live again. Not in a perfect realm here, in the unfinished world. That is not a downgrade, that is the assignment. The goal is not to escape being human. The goal is to be human with wholeness. So if you are listening to this in your car somewhere between a big box store and a strip of fast food places, and your chest feels tight because the week is already bigger than your energy, hear me, you are not broken for feeling stretched. You are not failing for needing a guide. Put one hand on your belly and one on your heart. Take the next kind action. Text a friend and say, "Can we walk?" Drink water. Send the hard email and then go sit in the sun for 5 minutes. When the dark rises tonight, tell yourself the truth. The wasteland is not here to devour me. It is here to reveal the light I carry. A closing thought about fairness and change. The book asks us to examine the lifeless scripts we accept. The copy-paste classrooms. The offices where people speak in slogans and call it vision. The online conversations that flatten us into a brand. If any of that sounds like your Tuesday, I am not telling you to burn it all down. I am asking you to bring a candle, real conversation with a coworker, a note of gratitude to the teacher who is actually trying, an honest boundary with a boss. A weekend afternoon with no screens. These are not small moves, they are subversive in the best way. They make space for a soul to breathe. When I think about the Ferryman now, I do not picture a man at a river. I picture an inner capacity, the part of me that knows the difference between noise and meaning, the part that steadies when others rush, the part that walks back into the dark because love asked me to. That part lives in you too. Some days it will be loud. Some days it will be a whisper. Either way, if you practice listening, it will grow strong enough to guide you. Here's my promise to you and to myself. I will not wait for a crisis to learn these skills. I will practice when things are ordinary, while the coffee drips, while the laundry tumbles, while the dog looks at me with ears up. Because when the big storm comes, I want my reflex to be kindness and clarity, not panic and blame. That is how we cross the wilderness with less unnecessary suffering, not by muscling through, by walking each other home one honest mile at a time. If this inspired you, please give it a like, subscribe for more weekly insights, and share it with a friend who's on this journey with you. Thanks so much for being here. I truly appreciate you. See you in the next video.